And we're gonna jump into this thing. All right, so get to the top. Welcome to the 40th episode of the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence, how that affects our people, Black people here in America. I am your host, Brother Tamani Mwandani out of Houston, Texas. I am the direct revolutionary product of one Cardinal and Bayou Chewy out of the Shrines of the Black Madonna, and the indirect revolutionary product of one Albert B. Clegg, African name Jeramogi Bebe Ajiman, the father of liberation theology and the founder of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. I am also the founder of the Black Gold Nation movement. And my co-host, the National Director of Political Strategy and Implementation for the Black Gold Nation movement and the chairman of LACE, Liberation Advocates for Community Empowerment, the intellectual gangster, corporate grassroots revolutionary, and master domino assassin, from Shreveport, Louisiana, aka The Boot, Brother Craig B. Lee. Brother Craig, how you doing this evening?
I am doing Irie after about 55 meetings today. And brother, if you would have seen me in action last night on the domino table, brother, I was down by 85 points. And the brother needed Marvin T. Muhammad, the scrub that he is. He needed 10 points to win, and brother, they put him on suicide watch.
Is that what it is?
and look, it got down to where he needed 5 points, and I needed like 60. And bro, I closed him out 150 to 145.
Wow.
We had him on suicide watch.
Well, I guess that's why they call you the domino assassin. All right, excellent. Well, so before we get started this evening, please give me a minute to briefly tell you about the Black Gold Nation movement. Our ultimate goal is putting our people in a position by which we can control and or own the spaces where we live. We understand that when we allow other people to control or own the space where we live, we lose, period, every single time. When we allow any group to control any aspect, any systems within that space where we live, when other people control it, we're always at the bottom, regardless of it's the economic system, the agricultural system, the education system, the political system, the security system, any system that other people control, we always find ourselves on the bottom of that system. And whenever other people control our environment, we always lose. We always come out last. Conversely, when we are in control, not only do we do just fine, but we outperform other people, which is one of the reasons why they seek to destroy every single thing we built. Now, since we no longer want to be in a position by which we are not winning, what we're trying to do here via the Black Gold Nation movement and the Revolutionary Code and everything we do is identifying Black people who want to be bigger, better, and stronger. We're looking for Black people who want to be a part of a movement that's about putting our people in a position to have political power, to run municipalities, so we can have our own systems and our own programs that we create, that we generate to move our people forward. Brother Craig and I are not just here to inform or educate you. We are here to inform, educate, motivate, mobilize, organize, and build. Every single thing we do is about getting you on board to help us build a nation within this nation for our people moving forward. Tonight's show title is Critical Race Theory and the 4th of July versus Juneteenth, connecting the dots of history, truth, facts, reality, and logic. Tonight's show is sponsored by Regeneration 180's Regeneration Freedom School, the Black Gold Nation movement's youth education model and program. With the Black Gold Nation movement, we fully understand that we can't build anything without knowledgeable, and have it last, without knowledgeable, capable, and willing youth. And Sister Jennifer Higgins, the Black Gold Nation's National Youth Education Division Director, is doing just that with her Critical Thinkers Club for young Black children ages 6 to 9 and 10 to 13 on Saturdays and Sundays. The purpose of the Critical Thinkers Club is to teach our children critical thinking skills, and more importantly, how to use those skills moving forward. So to learn more about Regeneration 180, Regeneration 180's Freedom School, and the Critical Thinkers Club, please visit her website at www.regeneration180.org/teen-self-work. I'll also place that link in the chat for anyone who wants to get it. So tonight, episode 40. Before we jump into it, let me first say that we want to send our positive thoughts, positive energy, and our prayers for the family and friends of Brother Johnny Lorenzo Bolton, who, via the results of a no-knock warrant, was shot dead by police in a matter of seconds after entering the home where he was sleeping. Unfortunately, as far as what's been reported so far, all the information that the cops had was incorrect. They were in the wrong house looking for the wrong person. And then as soon as they entered, brother didn't have a chance to say anything. They shot him dead. So our hearts and prayers go out to that brother's family and friends. So, all right, Brother Craig, let's get right into it. Critical race theory and the 4th of July versus Juneteenth, connecting the dots of history, truth, facts, reality, and logic. Okay, we're going to start with defining what critical race theory is by watching 2 brief video clips, and then we'll come back and discuss them. So I'm going to share my screen. Cool. Share my screen really quickly. One is a show from Brother Lamont, Mark Lamont Hill, and then the other one is Roland Martin interviewing people, but they also give pretty good definitions. So let me share my screen really quickly, and we can watch these 2 definitions and book from there. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Brother Craig, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Anyway, so I decided to get someone on the show tonight who is an actual expert on critical race theory and much more. This way we can all understand what critical race theory is about and how we can develop a better judgment about the current push to ban it from schools in the red states. So joining me now is Dr. Amani Perry, Professor of African American Studies at Princeton University. Professor Perry, I'll say Dr. Perry. I know they say PhDs come a dime a dozen. I don't buy that. So I'm going to say your expertise matters. And I'm going to ask you very clearly, what is critical race theory?
Okay.
What is critical race theory, Doc?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So the most straightforward way to explain critical race theory is to begin with the civil rights movement, right? So the victories of the movement, which we all know, are found in federal legislation, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, but also in anti-discrimination law, essentially laws that declared Jim Crow policies unconstitutional. So after that moment, we begin to understand, of course, that Black people suffered many other forms of injury and had many systems of disadvantagement and inequality in their lives, right? And so legislatures and municipalities and organizations began to make specific efforts to target African Americans with programs to address current and past discrimination. And they faced a major conservative backlash. And the way that backlash was formed was saying, well, if you make programs to target the discrimination experienced by Black Americans and you don't include me, white person, then you are discriminating against me, right? And so they begin to attack programs like affirmative action and upward bound, etc. And the Supreme Court of the United States then really fails the civil rights movement by basically treating targeted programs to address racial inequality as the same form of discrimination as Jim Crow laws, right? That they both are subject to immediate scrutiny, the strictest scrutiny. So we get to this point, and then civil rights lawyers and scholars begin to talk about how we have to be able to address subordination, injustice, not just color consciousness. It's not enough to be colorblind. We actually have to be able to address injustice and subordination if we're going to have legal racial equality. And that's the heart of critical race theory. How to think about law, legislation, policies that will substantively respond to racial inequality. And they began to bring multiple forms of analysis to the table: history, narrative, gender, class, showing all the insidious ways that discrimination and inequality have been sedimented in American society, right? And then it blooms in multiple directions, but it is literally just a way of understanding the mechanics of racial inequality and how the law might be imagined to address them. Nothing more than that.
All right, so that is the first explanation of critical race theory. And the second one is a lot shorter. It's Brother Roland Martin. He's interviewing this sister, but he gives a brief definition that I also want us to see. So let me share that screen, play that, and then we can go from there.
So this is what the folks at Ed Week have laid out. Critical race theory is an academic concept that is more than 40 years old. The core idea is that racism is a social construct. Is that true or false? Is racism a social construct?
I do believe that, yes. Racism is a social.
All right. And it says that it is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in legal systems and policies. Do you believe that racism is embedded in legal systems and policies in the United States?
I do not.
All right, so the interview goes downhill from there because she's completely off. But based but based on those two explanations and assessments, Brother Craig, would you agree with those two assessments and definitions, and would you like to add anything to those, either of those?
Yeah, I think the first sister hit on where the overall dynamic goes, and she also exposes the issue with the concept of critical race theory, because they try to bring gender into the equation as well. And this is why this thing is so messed up, because our people we just don't get it. We just don't get it. We want any and everybody to hit their wagon. We allow them to hitch their wagon to ours.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we constantly dilute the discussion on racial inequity, racial injustice for our people. So other than her bringing in the gender piece, she gave a very thorough connection to it, because it is examining how the systematic structures here in the United States, from your legislatures, federal, state, local, the judicial system, the law enforcement system, all of your systems, how they impact our people of color, regarding race and ethnicity. And so she gave a pretty good definition.
Okay, cool. All right. So the pushback against critical race theory is that, and I have no idea how they get here, but the pushback is that it places one group, the Black group, in a permanent class or status of victim and or inferior or incapable of excelling or achieving. That's one. And another group, the white group, in a permanent class of superior or evil. Is that your understanding of this overall pushback from those who are against CRT?
Well, all of those are pseudo counter arguments to play to people who don't know how to think. To try to make a person who has been oppressed feel like we don't need any remedy, any legal remedy for our oppression is asinine.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody to accept or believe that is logical pretty much shows that you're a stupid person, because all of this is structured through systems.
Yep.
And so in order to gain equity and justice in the system, there have to be policies specifically designed to address that.
Yep.
So unless you're willing to lie about the existence of a system called chattel slavery, which sets the foundation for where we're at today, and that was all legally done.
That's right.
From the federal to the state to the local level, right? Unless you're willing to lie about that, and then the subsequent policies that came about from the state level dealing with the black codes, the Christian black codes, the Jim Crow segregation laws. If you're willing to lie about that, okay, I got you. But you're never going to get white folks to discuss these issues legitimately. And that's why I sent you those videos on Mark Lamont Hill. he has to be the most irritated ass host
Yeah.
That's in America today.
Yeah.
Because he's so childish
Mm.
with his questioning.
Yeah, he does a very good job of trying to get them to okay, do you do you understand what I'm saying? Can you agree on this? And so I think he does a really good job of trying to make it as plain as possible. But these people they just don't get it.
He's a weak interviewer, man, and they play games with him, and he doesn't really know how to handle that because you're dealing with people who are never going to be
That's right.
honest, truthful about the subject matter. So what is the point of even having them on the damn show? You know, because they're gonna roll with their position, and you're gonna roll with your position.
Right.
So there's not gonna be any objectivity that comes in, and then the one who will engage in the discussion, they're just doing it on a higher level of saying nothing.
Right.
You're never going to win them over in objectivity and truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as the one who's willing to discuss it, $5 words sounds really nice, but you ain't really saying nothing. And if you listen, you about as wrong as two left feet. So it is interesting how they're trying to tiptoe, and it is amazing to me that people, and a lot of Black people, are really saying that to teach the truth of how this country was founded and built is wrong, and that really blows my mind. That people can't deal with that.
Are those Black people?
Melanated.
Okay.
Melanated people. Yes, melanated people.
And really melanated bourgeoisie Negroes. I mean,
yes, sir.
Black folks wouldn't.
Yeah, I can dig it. Okay, so all of this is again, it's about truth, teaching history from a truthful and factual standpoint, and the proponents, of course, don't want that truth to be told. So why is the history of that truth of how America came to be? Why is that so important for our people?
Well, because it lays the foundation for any legislative request for advances in the 21st century and beyond. So it clearly shows and gives the evidence for why reparations are necessary, although the white folks are not going to vote on it, why certain programs are necessary, why additional funding for HBCUs necessary, why all of these things have an actual basis. But in terms of establishing that history to be brought out, the white folks have to push back, because now with technological advances, where now people can hear these things, because it's already in the book, but to hear this stated in Congress, at a hearing, on YouTube, on television, to now bring this totally out to light where people can watch it in their hands and have this stuff broken down. The white folks don't want this around at all. And we need it out because it establishes the foundation for the arguments that we're making for the equity legislation.
Dig it. Okay, in episode 19, we have episode 19 of the Revolutionary Code. We talked about a documentary titled "Waiting for Superman," which discusses how the United States education system or the indoctrination system truly works, and why our people and people in general are so ignorant. Can you give us a brief overview of Waiting for Superman, and then connect those dots as to how critical race theory plays into that documentary?
So what Dr. Jeffrey Canada did in spearheading this film was to show how, coming out of slavery, the public schooling system was designed, and as we came into segregation, how the games were set in place in order to manipulate taxpayers into rolling with magnet schools and other specialized schools, and the inequities that existed in the inner city majority African American and Latino institutions. And it showed a phenomenal disparity in terms of the voucher system, the charter schools, things of that nature, and how a lot of children are being left out of the loop. But it gets back to the policies that are made across the board, because this goes across every faction: schooling, health and wellness. And so Jeffrey Canada wanted to point out clearly the inequities that existed and what he's doing in with the Harlem Children's Home to combat those inequities that they find. And it gave some real powerful examples of how parents are willing to, instead of fight for equity in their own neighborhood schools, how they would get on transportation buses, do all this stuff to just try to give their child what they perceive to be a leg up in this process. But still, if you really sit and think about it, in those schools, the neighborhood schools that they are abandoning, it's not like 100% of those students fail and become abject, do-nothing people.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of those folks still become productive members in society. Some of them become doctors, some of them become lawyers and business folks. So a lot of hysteria is created around these inequities, and what Negroes are waiting on is the white man to fix it, hence the concept of Superman. And Dr. Jeffrey Canada had to find out the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Superman,
that's right.
The white man is not going to come undo what they've done. And that's the unfortunate, sad reality with the critical race theory. I don't even like the title of the concept, because if you title something a theory, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
White supremacy is a philosophy. It's a theory, but you'll never hear them say, man, white supremacy theory, right? Because they want you to believe that their philosophy, their theory is real.
That's right.
And they're willing to show you it's real by killing and destroying and doing what they need to do to maintain their power. So the way that this has been framed, which started out, mind you, as critical legal study.
Okay.
It started out as a term in the 70s called critical legal studies. But when individuals, and I'm gonna have to do some real research on this cat, but Derek Bell,
mm-hmm.
those individuals, former Harvard law professor, brother, phenomenal, he died in the 90s.
Yep.
But they saw that in the 70s, okay, they were talking about inequities in general in the legal, judicial, prison system, all of this stuff. But they were avoiding talking about race and racism.
Mm-hmm.
And so they made the push to now rebrand critical legal studies into becoming critical race theory, which again is not a good branding name for what they want to do. But ultimately, what these wonderful intellectual cats want to do is get the white man to love them and admit they're wrong, and let's undo the legislation. And that's why they come up with stuff like the system is broken. The system is not broken.
That's right.
It's working as intended. But because they get caught up in the fictional aspect of America, they try to create this thing where they believe they can hold the architects, engineers, and managers of the philosophy, system, and game of capitalist white supremacy racism put their feet to the fire, and it's never going to happen. But ultimately, the critical race theory proves one thing, and one thing irrefutably. The basis of our podcast, the Revolutionary Code, intended to show people.
That's right.
Philosophy, the system,
and the game.
And the game.
Yes, sir.
And when you proposed this topic, I said, Tamani now will totally get why I use that terminology, philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy racism. Because any hint of communism or socialism, which a lot of these people hit on, who are countering capitalism, white supremacy, racism, they're coming with, bogus systems that also have racism in them.
Yeah.
And they never did take their intellect and ever try to put together a prototype at the local level to create an infrastructure.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that last piece, because my next question is about local activity. But let me ask you first, the persons who came up with the title critical race theory, given your how do I say, your tenacious propensity for the usage of words, I'll say that critical race theory as a title is not very clear. It's confusing. Yeah, so because I'm thinking, what theory are you talking about? so do you think that title was confusing on purpose, or you think they're unclear in what they're trying to do?
Again, they're clear on what they desired to do, which is to make an intellectual argument to so-called intellectual white folks. And their premise is, if we make the right intellectual argument, that's what they believe, brother.
Right.
Believe. So they know what they want to do, but even if you believe that, you got to come up with a better branding term. You got to come up with a better branding term, because it is a very confusing concept. Because to go from critical legal study to critical race theory. So think about that. The title was critical legal study. So when you're studying something, you're analyzing philosophies, theories, actual occurrences of events. So they don't say theory.
Yeah.
So how you go from studying legal studies, critical legal study, critical, meaning we're going to get in depth. We're going to really peel the layers back to show some inequities that exist within the structural design of America. Now, let's stop right there. Why would we even have to do something so high level on an esoteric level when we damn sure know,
for real,
that white supremacy and racism exist? So the white supremacists say, prove that it exists, goddammit.
Right.
How do you know it exists? So now we go through all these little songs and dance and these little, see, this case analysis here proves this, that, and the third, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't say anything, because they're only playing games.
That's right.
With the whole debate thing. They're never going to change their system, because their system allows them to maintain power.
That's right. That's right. And unfortunately, all of it is a waste of time. Yeah, because it's like I don't care what you say. This is my system. And actually, the title, to go from critical legal studies to critical race theory, it seems like you're taking a step back. To go from studies to theory, it should be theory, then study.
Exactly.
So it's like you're taking a step back, and you taking a step back to try and prove something to somebody who's never going to agree with you anyway.
And what it shows too, these were truly academicians who came up with this dumbass term.
Right.
Because no marketing person, they didn't consult any marketing professional around that term.
At all. It had to be legal people. Okay, next question. As we're going back to the legal, the local part. Now, as it relates to Waiting for Superman, what you just said about people not really wanting to do what you can do on a local level. Why do you think people are more inclined to leave the spaces where they live to bus, train, whatever, take their kids to some other place far away from home because it's better? Why do you think they want to do that as opposed to do the work?
They don't want to do any work.
They want to do the work.
They want Superman to help.
Right.
The work. If you stay in your local environment, like tonight, the meeting that I went to tonight, we're discussing $48 billion that's coming in from the federal government to the city. And you got Negroes at the goddamn meeting talking about the damn trash can. You got some Negroes y'all need to create more jobs. They don't even know what the goddamn government does, right? No city creates jobs. They foster the environment for entrepreneurs, whether for-profit or non-profit, to create opportunities for employment. So they up there begging the city, well, what y'all should do? No, what are you going to do? They got money, man. Follow the concept, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But so one of the things that I said tonight, in order to become an entrepreneur, you got to detoxify your mind from employee indoctrination. Mm-hmm. And most people who believe that they're ready to do entrepreneurship, they're not ready to do entrepreneurship. They just don't want to work for somebody else.
Right.
But if they really understood what entrepreneur, I remember this guy was doing an entrepreneurship class back in 2005, and he was talking all this pretty talk, and I happened to be in the meeting, and the people were just goo gaga. I said, stop. I said, are you ready? Are you willing to be homeless? And she said, what they got to do with entrepreneurship? I said, are you willing to go from A credit to F credit? She said, what they got to do with entrepreneurship? I said, you willing to your bills for something much in order to keep some other things going on? And she said, what does that have to do with entrepreneurship? Everything. And that's why you need to stay in your job.
Right. And most people don't realize being an entrepreneur is much harder than working for somebody else. Because all you got to do is clock in and clock out. When you're an entrepreneur, man, you got to go kill that thing and drag it home.
And you can pay less if you got employees.
That's right. Tara, sister, you making a bunch of noise. Mute your phone. I done it one time. Thank you. She making some noise over there. Okay. All right. So if you joined us late, you are listening to, if you missed the intro, you listen to the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence and how that affects our people, melanated Black people here in America and around the world. Tonight's show is our 40th episode and is titled Critical Race Theory and the 4th of July versus Juneteenth, connecting the dots of history, truth, facts, reality, and logic. My name is Tamani Mwandani, the founder of the Black Nation Movement. I am the host, and my co-host is Brother Craig B. Lee, who's the National Director of our Political Strategy and Implementation Department. Okay, Brother Craig, next question. So, Waiting for Superman and critical race theory, are these two dynamics why we, melanated people in the United States, celebrate the 4th of July?
Based on the critical race theory?
Yeah, is what is discussed in the documentary Waiting for Superman and critical race theory, as far as people pushing back against it. Are those two? Yeah, are those two dynamics why we Black people celebrate the 4th of July? And if so, why is that?
Well, I mean, to some degree you can say that, but primarily it's the indoctrination, the lack of spirituality, the lack of organic culture, and this has been done so the white man and all of his ways are perceived as these are things that we do. And I think I sent you the post that I made this week on Facebook, since we're talking about and I bring the real truth about the hypocrisy of even Juneteenth, the lies that are told within that holiday. But I told the story about a former mentee's girlfriend asking me the question, like, Craig, I know you the one that got Rick talking all this black stuff, all this black talk. What's wrong with celebrating July the 4th? And I was taken back. So I said, I'm going to ask her, I'm going to let you answer this yourself by asking you 2 questions. And I was like, where were our people on July the 4th, 1776? And she thought about it. She said, they were enslaved. So I'm like,
what we celebrating?
To celebrate us being enslaved? Like, I never thought about it like that. So that really is where the Negro is just on autopilot, right?
Yeah.
Negro will conjure up any damn reason. You can learn about Thanksgiving all day long, and the Negro put their own little spin of, well, Craig, we coming together to give thanks. That ain't what the goddamn holiday is. And if you believe that that's what you're really doing, then you don't understand how gangster these white folks really are. Because they're defining the evil spirits, and you're helping them solidify the evil spirits that keep us in perpetual servitude. So the more that you embrace these concepts, the more that we languish within these realms. But that's pretty much why, the Negro is waiting for the white man to save him, Superman. Yeah, that is a part of the July 4th deal. But at the end of the day, it is pure ignorance and stupidity of your, and the lack of spirituality and right organic culture that's within that realm.
You may have already answered this next question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, just in case. So we wanna per the title of tonight's show, we want to connect the dots of history, truth, facts, reality, and logic. So how is our celebration of the 4th of July and any other holiday that America puts out there, how is that not connecting the dots of history, truth, facts, reality, and logic? So we celebrate the 4th of July because we are not connecting those dots.
That's correct.
So what historical dots, what truthful dots, what factual dots, what reality dots, what logical dots are we not connecting that has us celebrating the 4th of July?
Number one, that your ass was enslaved. That your ancestors were enslaved.
Right.
That's one. Number two, that the independence that this country achieved from Great Britain, if Great Britain had won, we would have been in a better position than had these white folks won.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Because there was some promises made about us being free and having equity. And so this is how some of our ancestors ended up going to Canada at a particular point. There's I think the film was called The Book of Names that came out that talked about some of these things that happened after the war was over. The American Revolution was it
the Negro Book of Names or the Book of Negro Names, something like that? Yeah.
Like that. But it showed what was really going to go down. But it also showed that even when you're a liberal white person, it ain't nothing but a game, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just different parts of the process. But I mean, that's the number one and the number two thing. So from a logical standpoint, you go from, well, historical standpoint, 1776, hell, the Civil War jumps off in 1861. So you're talking about 100 years later, our people were still in chattel slavery.
Yep.
They were still constituted as being 3/5 of a person. So, and then that goes on for another 4 years in terms of the Civil War. So then we go under slavery by another name with the whole convict leasing program,
That's
the
right.
Black Code. So,
Yep.
like, what the hell are you celebrating? One of the greatest quotes, Kelly Miller, oh my goodness, said, there's never been any good time to be Black in America, but sometimes were worse than others.
Wow. if that ain't Black reality, I don't know what is.
There have never been any good times to be Black in America, but sometimes were worse than others.
That's right.
Which brings us to the 1970s, 80s hit TV series, Good Times.
Mm-hmm.
The white folks promoted Good Times as Negro. No matter how broke you are, no matter how impoverished you are, no matter, and Florida's gonna help us keep your ass oppressed, cause I ain't don't take that money.
That's right.
Everything happened to him. But guess what? Good times. Anytime you need a good time.
And you know what, that song is that statement you just made, because the song, the intro to the sitcom is no matter the bad times, when we have a little ray of sunshine, that those good times, help us get through. So that quote you just said is that theme song for the show Good Times. It really is.
Yeah, that was David Bradley, not Kelly Miller. There are no good times to be Black in America, but sometimes are worse than others. David Bradley.
Man, that's heavy. That's.
And so when people say, "Oh, we need to go back to the good," I remember the good old days. When was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me know when. Surely you ain't talking about from 1555 to 1865. Surely you ain't talking about those 15 generations, 310 years of chattel slavery, right? Okay, well maybe you're talking about from 1866 when the Civil War ends 1865. Maybe you're talking about from 1865 to 1877. Well, that's Reconstruction. We started building towns. We started taking over legislatures. Man, them was good times. No, goddamn it, because we were still being
That's right.
We were still being run out of Louisiana at one point back in the mid to late 1800s. We were at like 60% population.
Mm-hmm.
Negroes out the state. I mean, let me see. Were we talking about from 1877 to 1964 while we were under Jim Crow? I mean, when were there good times?
Yeah, and I think we because we are. It's so nice way to say this, but because we're so ignorant about our history in this country and what we've been through and what we're still going through, we think that there was a period that was good to go, and it's simply just we've always been catching hell. We've always been catching hell, and it's always going to be that way until we do our own thing in our own space. Really quickly, a question popped into my head. If you were over an educational system for melanated Black people, after spirituality and right culture, you have to implement an education system. Would you start with that 5-part series on plutocracy? Would you start there, or would you start somewhere else?
I pretty much would start with plutocracy.
Yeah.
And connect that simultaneously with reading Dr. Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro.
That's right.
Yeah, I would definitely start with plutocracy.
Dig it. Okay, cool. All right.
Because if you don't get that,
for sure. Yeah, if you don't get that, this whole thing, it's not about what we say the other day. You said me something, and I said good propaganda. It is not land of the free, home of the brave, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's corporations. For corporations, by corporations. And if you don't understand that, then of course you'll get caught up. And that's the whole game part of the philosophy system in the game. Okay, next question. Why is Juneteenth a more appropriate celebration for our people as opposed to the 4th of July?
Well, really, it's not.
In the South.
Yeah, in Texas and some parts of Louisiana.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad you asked that question because, the reason that this whole Juneteenth thing has caught fire is because there's no other goddamn holiday that celebrates our emancipation, not our freedom, not our liberation, because we're still not free and we're still not liberated, but emancipation because, getting back to critical race theory, we were the only group of people in this matrix that have been legally turned into chattel property.
Right.
So the emancipation is what is being celebrated. The incorrect thing about Juneteenth, the celebration, is that they attributed back to the Emancipation Proclamation that was delivered 2.5 years earlier, January 1st, 1863. This is where the lie comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Emancipation Proclamation did not, I repeat, did not free any damn body.
That's right.
Okay. So you say, well, wait a minute. I thought the proclamation, no. A proclamation is not legislation.
That's right.
It is an executive order, written down on paper. It has no teeth, right? So this was a tactical maneuver that Abraham Lincoln and his advisors made in their attempt to win the Civil War.
Right.
And when you read the Emancipation, it's so funny when I hear about the Emancipation Proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, and even Martin Luther King didn't even read that damn thing. But they called him the Great Emancipator.
That's right.
But that's not what happened. And if you were in the Union state and you had slaves, guess what? You were allowed to keep your slaves.
Mm-hmm.
You were allowed to keep our ancestors in physical bondage, prisoners of war,
yep,
in chattel slavery. If you were one of the states that had seceded from the Union, they didn't have any control over you, so the damn Emancipation Proclamation didn't impact you at all.
Right.
So it was just a handful of entities in a few states who were impacted. Now, how did they become emancipated? January 31st, 1865, the 13th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know that the trick that was put in the 13th Amendment.
That's right.
With the perpetual slavery clause.
Yep.
Meant that you what? Get arrested for a crime.
Commit a crime. Right. Yeah.
So hence the black code.
Yeah.
Right?
So it seems, Brother Craig, that whenever something is seemingly given with this hand, it's some bullshit with this hand.
Because this is not a one-dimensional game.
That's right.
It's a multidimensional philosophy, multidimensional system, multidimensional game.
Yeah.
Of a diabolical system called capitalism, hence capitalistic white supremacy racism.
Dig it. Sister Fabu has asked a question via Facebook. She said, so how do you suggest we change the mindset of our people around these holidays?
Around what?
Around these holidays.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you, Sister Fabu. I mean, those of us who are operating on an enlightened level, we have to leverage the money, status, and materialism. Now, what I do, this is what I do, because I know when some people become woke, you know, they try to stay away from their relatives because they, you know, celebrating the 4th or Thanksgiving or Christmas and all this foolishness. So what I do, because they want me to stop by and get a plate, you know, I do the real drive-by, and I drive by, get the plate. But what I do, I bring them information. I go into the Lion's Den and talk about Juneteenth and white supremacy. I don't give a damn that they don't like it.
That's right.
So I'm gonna bring them some information. I remember the first time that I brought my family information on my great uncle, Giles D. Moore Jr., the founder of one of the black townships, Moortown, and they were like, "Man, this is our relative." Whoop, 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 whoop. And they were so proud.
Yeah.
So that's how I deal with them. Because I've been stopped giving their ass Christmas presents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I give out a gift, it's going to be a damn book or something. It's going to mess them up.
Right.
Ain't no kind of Eurocentric type thing. So we have to become like water and still engage them around their celebrations so you don't become isolated, although we don't celebrate it. And some enlightened people look at that as being hypocritical, but you got to get beyond this and understand we have to be very sophisticated in how we handle our people because they're mentally ill and they love these white folks, brother.
And they're fragile. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
So you gain more respect by casually mentioning some enlightenment, you know, not hitting them hard upside the head like you crazy ass Negro Christians, how dare you still be and blah, 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 blah. Nothing like that.
Right.
But enlighten things, some positive things. And get a plate with them. You ain't got to eat no hog maw with them.
Right.
You know, get some beef, you know, eat some salad, some beef, you know. Sweet potato pie.
Right.
Now brew on the damn
vegan. That's right. That's my man. That's right.
But until he get that sweet potato pie, and that sweet potato pie got that whole milk in it.
All right. Last question. You only get one takeaway from tonight's show that everybody can walk away with one thing. So if you only get one thing that you want to make sure everybody walk away with, what would that one thing be?
That is, white folks are willing to go full throttle to prevent any enlightenment, any exposure to their philosophy system and game. And that means we got to be about the business of being on a higher level. You know, the critical race theory is a good way to discuss it, but we just got to be on a higher level. If you come at them direct like that, you're gonna get this kind of back.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you weren't Black people, if we weren't so concerned with their acceptance of our truth, we wouldn't care. We wouldn't say what you want to say. You lynching me was a bad thing. It was racist, and you still racist. And we boogie on from there. But like you said, we so badly want our oppressor to love us. You know, we got Stockholm syndrome like a mug, and we're gonna do every single thing we can to try and get these white people to love, respect, accept, and embrace us. Brother Ken said.
Read what Ken just wrote.
Brother Ken says Texas Governor Abbott signs new education law forbidding lessons on.
It's about this, bro.
It's signed a new education law forbidding lessons on systemic racism, seeks to whitewash lessons about slavery and discrimination in America. Yeah, none of it happened.
And look, and see the sister who gave the definition, she was disingenuous because she said, "Well, that's all we want to do. We just want to teach a little bit." No, that's not all you want to do.
Yeah,
you're trying to recruit white folk, good intentioned white folk, to especially young children, young people, to get them in the game so that they can now become the 21st century abolitionists. That's what you're really trying to do. And the white folk who are on the conservative side, see what your game plan is. Yeah, you damn tell them everything anyway in all of your damn books. So that's what the real deal is. The battleground is converting some of these young folks. And so they've made this push now. And George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, these murders have helped to make push. So now you see all these white folks out here, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, wait a minute, we gotta shut some of this down.
Yep.
They starting to stem the tide. So what the white children don't understand, if the system, the philosophy system and game of capitalistic white supremacy begins to diminish, now you all start to disappear. Mm-hmm. And while you're doing all of your kumbaya and let's everybody be equal,
you muted your phone.
The architect engineers know what that means.
That's right.
They know what that means. Yeah. And it's not something good for them.
Yeah, because that means that they start losing a grasp on power.
Exactly.
And what we don't realize is everything they do is about power.
Exactly.
Everything. But you know, and again, when they say by any means necessary, they mean it. We just talking. All right. Brother Naru has turned his camera on, which means it's Q&A time. So, Brother Naru, we know you got at least one question. What's happening, brother?
First of all, I don't eat sweet potato pie no more, Craig.
Word.
Clear that up right off the top. Yeah, I brought my daughter tonight. She's in class for the summer. This is one of the classes. She's taking the immaculate notes. I think you're gonna have somebody you know.
Okay.
To deal with. I'll send them to you later. Let you see what she took.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also doing stock market and cryptocurrency and all that this summer.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's get them cryptos, Lil Naru.
Lil Naru. I like it.
So my question is both to you, both of you. Do either of you consider yourselves Americans? If so, why? And if not, how do you define yourselves?
Oh, that's real simple for me, Brother Naru. No, I'm not an American. I'm an African descendant in America. A Dia. That's what I am. And look it up. Look up the term Naru. A Dia means God's gift in Swahili. So that's what I am. I'm African descendant in America. But Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3, regardless of what a Negro believes here in this country, Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 tells us that we're 3/5 of a person.
That's what it says.
And I don't care what the 14th Amendment attempts to say. That legislation has never been legally redressed. And if you don't legally redress that, that means that still exists. Hence why they came about with the Black Code, hence why we've needed all of these legislative measures to give us some basic equity in this game, this hellhole that we're in.
Thank you. Brother Tamani, same question.
Yeah, my answer wouldn't be too much different. I would not classify myself as an American because we don't receive the benefits or the rights or the privileges, none of that as an American is supposed to receive. So yeah, I would most certainly consider myself an African descended person that's in America. I would even go as far as a POW. So yeah, but yeah, I would most certainly not consider myself to be an American, not at all.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Brother Craig, do you have an African name as well?
No, I haven't selected an African name, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I started the process of doing my genealogy research here, and then with the DNA test. Mm-hmm. So I've done 23andMe, and so I still ain't did my ancestry kit, but that's up next. So here's my thing, Naru. I didn't just want to come up with an Afrocentric name. Mm-hmm. I wanted the name to actually have a genetic connection. So where I'm at in my journey is now going from here back to the continent, going back. I haven't been to Africa yet, but hopefully next year I will be going. So the objective is to now go to the continent after I've done the due diligence here to find out, and I pretty much have it pinpointed where I'm primarily from. And I have enough African friends who have pretty much indicated that when you go back, you can pretty much, people can tell you physically, based on your characteristics, what tribe, right? So that's where I'm at with that. So I wanted to get a name that had genetic connection versus just conjuring up a name. One of my good partners who was an activist here, Brother Baruti Ajanaku. And one of the things that Baruti said to me, he said, "Bro, Craig, I got a problem with you." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "You still got that goddamn slave name." And I started laughing. He said, "I'm serious." He said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Because you still got the slave mind with an African
name."
I said,
so which one is best?
I said, Baruti, what the hell is a Janaku? I mean, tell me who is that connected to? He said, well, dude gave it. I said, Baruti, I get it. I understand the symbolism. I said, but if your mind, like you're on food stamps, you're on Section 8, you're on all this goddamn slave stuff, but you telling me about your damn African name. I said, I ain't never been on none of that stuff other than when I was in college running our hustle. You know, I did get our food stamp game on. But other than that, I'm like, dude, I'm 10,000 times more African than you'll ever be, right? And so, but that's my thing, Naru. I don't frown against any cats. I do wear guard. I do wear the color, but the name is definitely coming because the name is truly not an issue with me in terms of getting rid of it. Hell, the name Lee ain't my actual slave name anyway. Mm. My grandmother, I got to come out to Oakland before my uncle died. Mm. My grandmother had an affair with a married gangster whose name was James Monroe Jr. Mm. So my damn slave name is actually Monroe, right? Lee is not even connected to me at all. That was my great-great-grandmother's, one of her husbands, John Lee. And though that was not my grandmother's, my great-grandmother, I should say, that was not my grandmother's dad, At that time, okay, he paying bills, your goddamn name Lee.
Call the name.
You know, so that's how the damn name came about to begin with. It's not even genetically connected to me even from a slave standpoint. So there's no fear of the name change, but I wanted it to be genetically connected versus me just creating it.
Well, I hope you have a great journey and find a name worthy of you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Cool. That's it, Naru. You good? Excellent. Okay. Does anyone else, including Lil Naru, does anyone else have a question or comment for Brother Craig before we close this thing out? Anybody got a question or comment? Anybody else? Question, comments going once.
You'll send her notes.
Okay. Ooh. All right. Cool. You send your notes and we will reply. I promise.
But I would like to. I want to hear one thing that she thought was important, especially since she's in the class. They're taking the class. Just one, at least one thing. If it could be two, I would like to hear from.
Here she come. You can just talk. You have to. Yeah.
I took a lot of notes.
Cool.
One thing that stuck out to me about what you said is that the system's not broken, it's working as intended. I thought that was really interesting. Also...
Did you understand that?
Did
you understand that point?
Yes, like they built the system specifically to put us down. And
exactly.
I resonated with that.
She's smarter than me, Craig.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also the third too.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay, man, that's great. I look forward to talking to you offline, man. I do this. One of the main reasons I do this is because of young folks like yourself. And I'll tell you this: when I left corporate America, I got back here to Shreveport in May of '94, and I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. And when I left, it was a quote by Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said, "A man who is not willing to die for something is not fit to live." And your father, people like your father, myself, I know I can say this for Naru because we operate from the same spirit, Brother Tamani, everybody on this call. I asked myself the question, what Negroes die for everything. I mean, they die for tennis shoes, they die for dollars, they die for rims, they die for all of this foolishness. I asked myself the question, first time ever in my life, at the age of 28 years old, I said, what am I willing to die for? And the answer came just like that. I'm willing to die for the same things that my great freedom fighting ancestors were willing to die for. And that is the freedom, justice, liberation, empowerment, advancement of our people. And for young folks like yourself, because we got to be about the business of positioning you guys in this relay race. Right? So that you all, not necessarily, I don't want to say, I don't like the term don't have to struggle, because you got to struggle. It's important for you to struggle. But we don't want you to have to encounter the obstacles to getting your ideas in the forefront of the world. Because I'm having to do things right now where I should be doing intergalactic international deals, but I still got to fight because certain things were not done 50, 60 years ago in the city of Shreveport. But I got a good team. We've united with your father, other people around the country, other people around the world, and we're here to set a prototype in place for young folks like yourself so that you can now begin to advocate for the interests of melanated people throughout your city, your county, your state, other parts of the country, and throughout the world. And that goes back to your mother's native land as well. Because when melanated people understand that we are connected by our oppression, and we can get beyond our tribalism, the tribalistic differences, now we can begin to attack the imperial system that continues to plague us and keep us in perpetual oppression.
Amen. Brother Naru, Brother Ken says, great job on your daughter. He says she's very inspiring and a breath of fresh air. Brother Ken says that about you and your daughter.
Thank you. We might have to bring her back a few more times.
Oh yeah, please do, because like Brother Craig just said, everything we do for her, so that she'll be in a position to have power and not have to deal with the crap that we've had to deal with growing up. So what we do is for her, so we want her to be here, no doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, with that, thank you guys for being a part of the show. I sincerely appreciate it. Always remember two things: no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always, always, always remember that nothing is more sacred than the liberation and salvation of Black people. Not you, not me, your kids, your family, my family. So we take care of the nation, we take care of the group. The group has power, and we wield that with like a two-edged sword to protect what's ours moving forward. So with that, thank you guys very much. God bless. Y'all take care.
Yes, sir. See you, Brother Mike.
Peace, peace, peace.
All right, brother.